Everybody, late morning, but welcome back to another week of the show. I'm joined once again by David Bray. And conference weekend, well, the first half of conference weekend just went down. What jumped out of the page at you?
I mean, I love that we have 2 conference weekends, first of all.
Yeah.
We had 5 of the 7 conferences get wrapped up, and they were staggered, right? EIWA is on Friday, Max finished on Saturday, and then the rest yesterday. So, I mean, I thought it was amazing. I was locked in on wrestling all weekend long. ACC finals last night were pretty wild. It was nice to cap off a great weekend wrestling with a really fun set of finals. So I loved it. What'd you think?
Yeah, same thing. NC State winning, I think, 5 of 6 finals, 3rd straight title, and then of course we're gonna get to our man Pat Santoro here in a second. EIWA Champions, 4th year in a row for Lehigh. Fantastic finish. And let's bring him on. Pat Santoro, head coach at Lehigh University. Pat, how you doing this morning?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being here. And I guess it's been almost 1 year, right? It was right after conference weekend last year that things got shut down. Then, if I said we're still dealing with this a year later, would you have believed me?
No, I thought by the summer we'd be kind of back to normal. That was just kind of my impression. Shut down, was it 2 weeks to shut everything down and everything's back to normal?
Yeah.
Never happened.
Flatten the curve, they were saying for a while.
Flatten the curve, yeah.
It's just the curve got way too unflat, I guess. So I don't know what's the last year been like specifically. Maybe since the summer or whenever the guys arrived back on campus.
Yep. It's been difficult. I mean, we didn't see our guys really we weren't allowed to see our guys from March until September. So we got them back for a few weeks in September. A lot of it was conditioning. We weren't allowed to wrestle yet. And then the school had a bump up in COVID cases, so they shut everything down on campus for 5 weeks. So we really didn't get back till middle of November. So that was the first time we really got back on the mats, any kind of consistency.
I mean, with that much of a layoff and not knowing exactly what the guys, but I'm sure you encouraged them to work out on their own, but who knows what they're doing.
Sure.
When they came back in November, what'd you see and what'd you think? Hey, this is great. Oh, crap, they haven't been doing anything, somewhere in the middle?
Yeah, it was a mix. Some guys they're ready to go, and some guys you can tell had a 6-month layoff just because they didn't have the same resources wherever they lived. The tough part is we started getting rolling, and all of a sudden you get a COVID case or two, and it's not the COVID cases that gets, it's the contact tracing. Because every kid that gets it, you're losing 6. You're losing roommates, you're losing somebody they had lunch with, you're losing who they wrestled with, who they lifted with, and I think just right before conference, we had our last dual meet weekend canceled, which is actually a blessing. It was the first time we had 3 straight weeks of our full team training together since that first week of practice. So we were kind of really fortunate there where we could string together 3 straight weeks. The guys looked better, they felt better. We're just hoping that we get 2 solid weeks of training before we head out to NCAAs.
In a normal year, you probably have the season somewhat mapped out. Maybe we're going to train hard here, we're going to compete, we're going to train hard, or however you mix it up. But that had to not be the case this year because it's constantly go, stop, 2 weeks off, go.
Yeah.
How do you?
It was hard.
Are you making it up as you go once you get back, or I don't even know?
Yeah, your peaking plan is completely different. Instead of doing a macro peak, it's a bunch of micro peaks because you have to. A lot of it is, we're really big on, we do some wrestles, but mostly it's open competitions. Or, I think most coaches are, how you perform open competition. But we had 4 weekends to make decisions, and then we had to do, and you saw it across the country. Teams' lineups were changing the last week of the season just because either you couldn't do a wrestle off because either someone was COVID related, was out, or they're dinged up, or the other guy was out, and they need to have some time back on the mats before you wrestle them off. So it really put a pause on a lot of what we were trying to do and trying to get our full team out there because we have a lot of really good guys. I mean, I think half the weight classes we could have had either guy, and I would have felt really comfortable them wrestling.
Did you have any examples where you had to do a last minute change, or you couldn't have a wrestle off?
Yeah,
or you couldn't. Yep.
Yeah, we are. JT Davis, 84-pounder. he suffered an injury, and it was one of those, could he be back? Maybe or maybe not. He turned out he couldn't be back. So 84, we were literally doing wrestle-offs the week before conference, and then 57 because of, one guy was dinged up. I think earlier than that, someone was out with 2 weeks with COVID. We had to wait till 5 days before. So maybe that was I think that was a week before. The other one was like 5 days before, and we had to do 57. We had to wrestle that one. So 57, I think, and 84 were really late. We wanted to do them earlier, but we just couldn't. So those are the two main weights. And then we had to do 41, not as late, but just trying to decide who was going to be the guy, and it was tough on those guys because they didn't know either.
I mean, that communication with the team about the lineup is always maybe a little tricky, right? Like, okay, we'll go to this tournament and decide.
Really tricky,
right?
Yeah.
So this year, especially without all those extra, open tournaments and all those events, was that even trickier, or what was that like?
It was really challenging because we have a pretty competitive team, and everybody wants to wrestle, and they should. And like I said, we have a lot of really good guys, and I feel really comfortable with wrestling. But when you had literally 4 weekends to go off of, you look for, like, did they have any common opponents? Like, we were fortunate we had some matches where we could wrestle the same. We wrestled A and B guys, so we could wrestle them both and get an evaluation. But that wasn't a lot. I say 4 weekends we had. And then with guys being out, we just couldn't evaluate. We couldn't even see them in the room sometimes. So I think that happened across the country. Talking with other coaches, they're really frustrated. You feel mostly for the wrestlers because they don't know, because we don't know. Usually by Christmas you're pretty cut who's going to be the guy. But maybe you have one weight class just because someone's out. But this one we had like 3 weight classes, 4 weight classes. We just didn't know. We had to make a decision really late.
Is there anything you can take from this weird and not ideal season that you can apply to the future? It forced us to do A, B, or C, or think differently, or operate differently.
Well, I think this is coaching, right? So you always have to do this anyway. Sometimes you have to coach on the fly because things change. Every coach has, there's injuries or sicknesses, and there's the season change. You got to train your athletes different. You can't train, 40 guys the same way. You got to. These guys need more time off. These guys need more conditioning. Whatever the case may be, you have to a little bit be flexible. This year especially, this was really frustrating for us because we just, we love seeing our guys. We have a nice facility. We see them all day long. They're in here. We can't do that this year. This year, they come in, they lift, they leave. They come in, they practice, they leave. And that's not the way any coach wants to coach. You want to be around your team as much as possible and trying to build those relationships. And this is probably the most difficult year to do that. And I know our guys were frustrated. We were frustrated. But at the end of the day, they responded this weekend. And the 10 guys that wrestled were representing the other 30. So it was pretty cool to see them come together right at the end.
How did you talk to your team about this situation? Every team's dealing with it the same. It's like if the mat's wet, it's wet for everybody.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Did you impart some wisdom on them, or what kind of things did you talk to them about? Like, we got to get through this, and this is how.
Yeah. And we started in the summer. We had a lot of Zoom. I didn't know what Zoom was a year ago, by the way.
Nobody did. We should have had stock.
Nobody did. How about it? Yeah. So we did a lot of Zooms. We said, hey, you got to be fluid. Things are going to change. And it's one thing we kept telling them, things are going to change. We preached that all year, just about every week. It felt like we were given a list of rules all the time, and guys don't want that because every week we'd have staff meetings. You come in and say, hey, make sure you're doing this, you're not doing this, and wrestlers really don't want a list of things not to do and things to do, and we hated doing it, but it was a necessary evil. But it was probably the most difficult thing as a coach is constantly given a same message that's inconsistent with what we always want our guys to be aggressive. We want them to say, be free, do what you need to do. And now it's like, stay in your room, keep your bubble within 5 people or your roommates. And that's not how you build a team culture. And so that's the toughest part.
That kind of sucks.
Yeah.
Really sucks, yeah.
For just being real. So when you had these pauses, right, in November you went, and you said, I'm thinking you didn't get to go more than 2 weeks. What? I guess you got to – I don't even know if – you probably don't even bring the team in. Do you just send a text out or organize a Zoom call and say, hey, sorry, y'all, we're
mostly
paused?
A Zoom call. Yeah, no, we get a pause and you have a Zoom meeting and you talk about it, and then, like, you're trying to get, whatever the guys are getting weights in their basement, they're getting bikes in their house so they can do something because they can't leave their house once they're quarantined. So it's not much they can do. So it's almost better if you had COVID because you're out 10 days. If you're quarantined, you're out 14. So that's the one that kills you. Then you get back, and I don't care how many bike sprints you do or how much running you do. You come back and wrestling, you're not ready, right? You got to wrestle. That's the best way to get prepared for wrestling is by wrestling.
Yeah, absolutely. So you guys, I think you were like 3-4 in duels. As you're heading into the conference weekend, what are you thinking, right? Like, well, we didn't have a great season, but it wasn't a whole lot of opportunities to see where we stand. But in your head, where did you stand heading into the EIWAs?
We knew the guys we had. We knew we were capable of winning. For us, it was just, are we prepared, right? And that way, I felt like that way all year. I just felt a lot of the matches we went into, we just weren't prepared. We knew. I mean, if you look at the box scores, I mean, how many 1-point matches we lost in every dual meet? It was, and a lot of them in the third period. And that's unusual for us. And then this weekend, just with that extra week and the extra conditioning we were doing, we were winning those tight matches. And that was just a difference. And people don't think conditioning is a big factor. It's a major factor in those tight matches. You just think different late in the match. We knew we had the ability. We just, it was one of those, okay, we're ready to wrestle. Do they know they're ready to wrestle? That was a big thing. And then they showed up and they were ready to wrestle. And it was really good to see. You could actually see it in the room about 2 weeks in. Once we had the second full week, starting that third week, we're just looking at each other going, wow, these guys they're getting through the practices that we have scheduled. Sometimes we were backing off in practice because we couldn't push them anymore because you risk injury. But they looked ready and was like, all right, if they believe they're ready, they're ready. And I think just some of the good leadership and some of the guys just had that swag, and they kind of went out there and they just wrestled for each other. The big thing is, I think when you wrestle for each other, you take the pressure off yourself because you're trying to go out and you're trying to score points for your teammates, right? I think that's a big part of if you just make it about yourself, then win or lose, you kind of die on the sword, right? But I think when you're wrestling for each other, if you do lose a match, I got to come back and get third. And our guys all wrestled back well. The guys that lost and the guys that won just kept winning. And we got a lot of bonus points this tournament, which we didn't do a whole lot during the season, but also we turned that around a little bit. And then that's a conditioning factor too, I think. You start when you can go to 7 minutes and score as many points instead of trying to survive 7 minutes, you wrestle a lot better.
It's cool to hear that you knew the team was ready. They could win it if they believe they're ready. According to the pre-seeds, I think you guys were predicted to finish second behind Navy. Did the team feel like underdogs? Did you get the sense that they felt like they were underdogs, or how did you? I don't know. What was the sense?
I think they felt. I mean, they felt pretty confident. I think that the fact they just felt better themselves. I think we never talk about who's underdog, who's favored. I just don't put a whole lot of stock in that. I think you go out there to compete at the high level every time. If you start thinking, well, if I'm an underdog, I wrestle better. Well, that's a problem, right? You got to change your mindset. You wrestle good all the time, and if you got to be, if you're the top dog, that means you've done something right. So go out and wrestle. You keep doing what you're doing. If you're the underdog, then work a little bit harder and make yourself you're the top, the number one guy. And I think that's just a mindset. I think everybody wants to play underdog, no pressure. It's like pressure is what you make of it, right? Everybody feels pressure, and it's how you evaluate and how you break it down. At the end of the day, it's just go out and do what you do best. It's hard. Wrestling's hard, but it's not difficult. It's not this hard formula, right? It's like, oh my gosh, I got to solve this problem. No, put yourself in your positions over and over again, and wrestle hard. That's the hard part, but put yourself in positions over and over again. That's pretty simple. And when you can do that and string that together for 7 minutes or overtime, then you're going to win a lot of matches.
I'm sure you've gone in. You go into tournaments as a coach, and you're hopeful, but there's always this maybe in the back of your head, like, I'm sure every coach has seen it fall apart at some point, right? And just have these bad tournaments.
Sure.
You were hopeful coming in this, but you didn't absolutely know what was going to happen. Was there a point in the tournament you're like, we're rolling. Okay, I'm feeling good. We're in the right direction, and yes, this might happen.
Yeah, I think once we got done the first round, I was like, okay, that was a good first round. We're wrestling hard, and that's what you look for as a coach. Because in a one-day tournament and it was a smaller tournament than usual, you're not going. This thing's not going to be decided till the finals anyway, right? So you can't get ahead of yourself. You know how good Navy is. You know how good Army is. And I think Hofstra has a really good team. I think people overlook them a lot. Matter of fact, we had a little send-off we do every year on a Zoom call, and one of the teams I talked about is Hofstra and Drexel. I said, watch, don't sleep on these teams because they got some pretty good people. And I know they wrestled pretty well also. So we went in not looking past anybody, just trying to be prepared. I think that was it. We were rolling that first round, and then the semis hit, and I thought Navy was wrestling really well. I thought we were wrestling really well, and then I didn't really pay attention to the score because I just, as a coach, you have to, in your head, you just got to be like, all right, we can't do anything until the finals. Let's get there. Let's see who's going to be in finals, who's in the backside, and then when you walk into that last round, the placing matches, then you can start doing numbers in your head if you want. But at that point, we didn't know, and then I think one of my assistants just told me we're up by 20 going in. I was like, oh, that's a good place to be, better than being down by 20. So, yeah.
When you say you don't pay attention to the scores, you like literally, do you consciously like not look up they're posted, or
No,
you don't want to hear it? Or you just
no, they're not. I don't see them. If I'm following, it's an easy tournament to follow, right? You have the thing on the board, who's on deck, who's coming up next. I didn't see anything posted unless I went online where the team score was. So I don't really look at the team score. I purposely do that every year, at every tournament. I don't want to get caught up in just, we got to place higher. Maybe the last 8 NCAAs, you might look, okay, we win this match, we can pop into the top 10 or whatever. But you really can't do that early. It just takes focus on what you're trying to do. Like I said, if you get the guys and they're doing what they need to be doing and they're winning the matches, it will take care of itself. But it's just coaching's stressful enough, right? Going to a wrestling tournament is it's like going to a wedding and a funeral, right? You're up one round, you're down the next. You're up one round, you're down the next. So if you focus now, you take your focus away and start focusing on team score. I think you're going to put more pressure on your team. Just think, we got to win this one. This one's really key. There's already enough pressure. These guys, they need to focus on what they're doing. They don't need to focus on the team score. Their only focus for team score is how many bonus points can I get from my teammates. Regardless of the score, whether you're in 5th, whether you're in 1st, you're still trying to have the same purpose. I'm trying to score bonus points. And I think once you have that mindset, it makes it a lot easier.
You're one of the most stand-up guys, so I'm not going to say I think you're lying, but and I believe that you don't. I can believe it because you said it, but to be like, I don't look at team scores. Has it always been that way? Because I'm not coaching at the NCAAs, but as a fan, I'm constantly looking up. Even after the first round, I'm like, oh wow, so and so is in the top 10, even though they probably won't make it. It's I don't know, how did that come about? Did you used to look at the team scores, and there was a reason you don't, or a time that came up?
No, I don't think. I think when I was at Maryland and the ACCs, that's such a small tournament, right? Like, you can't look at the team scores because that thing can change in a heartbeat. I just started saying it was just added stress for me personally. Is added stress. Plus, after every round, the team scores because they announce them, so you kind of know where you're at. So you don't need to follow them. Like I don't need to look at the 57 and go, okay, where are we at right now? It just doesn't make sense for me. It's just not my focus at that point. I can't focus on too many things at once. Got a lot of ADHD going on, so I gotta focus on what I'm focused on. But like I said, you have an awareness of where you're at, right? Because like I said, after the first round, they announced the team scores. That I don't know where we were, but I know we were in the top whatever. And then before the finals, I heard the announcements. I knew we were winning, so it was like, okay. And then that's when you start doing the numbers. Like, okay, if we win these first 2, I think we have it. And then that's that was kind of what we did. We won the first 2, and then we knew that they won the tournament, which was nice because then it was just icing on the cake. Let's win as many matches as possible. We want to win. Don't get me wrong. And
of course.
I have an awareness of the score, but I couldn't tell you we're up by 3, we're down by 8. Like, you don't know that. You just know if you're wrestling where your potential is. Because these tournaments, especially conference tournaments, the points aren't made till the semis, right? Like the first, usually this is a 2-day tournament. First day really means nothing. You can get 5 through the first day, and then pump 5 into the finals, and all of a sudden you're in the hunt.
Yeah.
So you just gotta keep things in perspective.
Sure.
The EIWA was affected by this COVID-19 stuff probably more than any other conference because of the loss of the Ivy League. What did you think when you first heard Ivy League is out? Did you think there was a chance to be back in, or what was, I don't know. Yeah, what did you think?
Yeah, first thing is you're disappointed because you know what the Ivy League brings to our conference. You think of the Cornells, the Princetons, the Penns, the Columbias, and how what kind of strong teams they have. And it was just like, wow, what's going to happen to us next? Because the Patriot League a lot of times follows suit of the Ivies, right? So if you kind of follow that last year, it was like the Ivies are out, and then the Patriot League is out, everybody else was out. So I was like, we next. And I think we had a handful of guys. They admitted to me later on, it's like, oh, coach, I really didn't think we were going to have a season. And that's, and to me, yeah, and some of them, maybe their weights were out of control, or some of them didn't train as hard because it was an easy way out. But I'm the old belief is it's always better to be prepared for an opportunity that doesn't happen than to be unprepared when an opportunity does happen, because there's nothing worse than regret, right? You can prepare, and if you're ready to go and it gets taken, like last year, we were ready to go, got taken away from everybody in the country. we were ready. It was out of our control. You can live with that. But if you kind of didn't think you're going to have a season, all of a sudden here we are, and we're coming to get ready for EIWAs. You're not ready. Now you get regret, and that's the toughest thing. You don't want anyone on your team to have regret. It's gonna be the same way once you get out of here. Like, oh, I'm never going to get that promotion. It's going to go to so and so, and all of a sudden someone leaves a job and the job opens up and you're not ready because you haven't prepared for it because you didn't think you thought you're years away. So it's the same mentality. You got to be ready for every opportunity because, as we saw last March, I mean, you got to be grateful for every opportunity because it can disappear in a heartbeat.
Ain't that the truth? So obviously the shortened season and then the contact trace and pause for 2 weeks and everything else, not ideal. If you take away the COVID part, what do you think of having, and I know it's been discussed plenty in the past, a shorter season or start in January and end in April, or not go from basically the time you get to campus through March?
I am 100% on board with a January through April. I think we should do it. I think it's better for our student athletes. I think it's really good for the freshmen that come in, just get them that first semester under their belt. I don't know why we don't do it. I know there's been talk, gosh, it had to be talk for 10, 15 years now. And that seems like every 3 or 4 years someone asks me, would you be in favor of a second half season? I'm like 100%, but nothing's changed. We got to just do it. I think a lot of coaches realize that it wasn't a bad thing what we're doing this year. In the beginning, when this whole thing started, I was kind of pushing for an April end date so we could start in January and just have that extra month to get guys ready. Just knowing that you're going to miss time with COVID, you just knew it as a coach. You knew you weren't going to get 10 straight weeks. It wasn't going to happen. It wasn't going to happen anywhere. You've seen it across the country, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, teams were rolling forever, and all of a sudden, bam, you get hit. Teams were, were getting crushed, and all of a sudden they had a good string. So you just don't know when your opportunity is going to happen. But I'm all in favor. If you guys can make that happen somehow, I would love to start in January and end in April. That would be ideal.
And I was going to say, I don't know if I can make it happen, but we can maybe talk to some people.
Yeah, I don't know how we make it happen, but I think it's really important.
Yeah.
If it was up to you and you were the president of NCAA wrestling, not how, but what would it look like? Would like a duel and then tournaments and then duels, or is there kind of a loose plan in your head of what it might look like?
No, I don't have a loose plan. I think the first thing you got to do is you're going to try to do too many changes at once. It's never going to work. We've seen that at the conventions. Coaches aren't going to all vote on something. I think you got to do one thing at a time. We're going to go one semester sport. And then once we do that and we have the success and have, sell out the NCAA tournament in April, which we'll do, then you talk about the dual meets and trying to throw them in there. If you're trying to do so much change at one time, it could happen. I just don't know if it will. It just seems like we have a hard time getting anything passed. So let's get one thing done. I think every coach I talk to seems to be in agreement with the one semester sport. Let's do that. And then some are on board with the dual. I don't care. I don't care if we do dual meet championships, and it doesn't matter to me. We're going to show up and wrestle. But let's get one thing. Let's just go to the second semester and then worry about the other parts.
Well, and I wasn't maybe meaning so much as a dual meet championship, just as far as right now we have open tournaments and kind of wrestle some tournaments, and then the second half is duels. And I was just curious if we should start with some duels and then have tournaments, which some people have alluded to. They think that makes more sense.
Yeah, no, I have no idea. For us, we have a big conference. We try to wrestle 7 or 8 schools every year in our conference.
Yeah.
And then we want to wrestle out of conference schools. So we usually put in a couple extra dates that are, maybe we'd go to the Scuffle or Midlands or the South Beach duels. We're trying to get creative. I'm trying to get away from those grindy tournaments. They're the ones that beat you up. But you wrestle, a couple times a day, 2 or 3 times a day. That's perfect. You start wrestling, 6 times a day. You don't know what's going to happen.
Sure.
But I'm open. But I know a lot of schools. Some of these schools, it's really important that they have these open tournaments. It's a fundraiser for them. Mm-hmm. So you don't want to. It's a tricky thing because you don't want to lose that for those schools. So.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I'm on board with anything. Just say let's put a second semester and we'll figure it out. All right. That's what we do. We figure things out.
I like that.
Another change that we had this year that I think a lot of fans like is 2 separate conference weekends where 5 conferences competed this weekend, and then we'll have Big 10s and Big 12s this coming weekend. What did you think about that from a coaching standpoint, and does that change your preparation? How does that change your preparation for NCAAs having an extra week?
That I don't know. It's my first time, so I'll let you know. But this year I think it's good. As long as we don't get hit with COVID, it's going to be really good because we'll have 2 more weeks of training. Because you're not going to train hard and crazy for 3 weeks, right? You're kind of have to back off. But this year, I think it's great. I thought it was a really good idea. I don't know if it might have been Matt Azevedo that brought it up in one of our meetings, but it just made a lot of sense. Why don't we go a week earlier? Because if someone had COVID at the tournament, you do contact tracing, and you have to sit for 2 weeks, you're out of the NCAA tournament. But we move it up a week, you still have a chance to get in. So.
Sure. NCAA bids and the allocations. What was your take on how that went this year?
Perfect. No, I'm just kidding. No, I understood why coaches were upset. I really do. I just don't know if there was a better formula. They were going by past data, and I think some of the logic I understood it was like, hey, we lost 5 teams, or 6, 7 teams, I guess, months early, right before the NCAA tournament. But at the end of the day, if the ACC lost 2 teams right before the ACCs, you weren't going to change their allocations unless they had a formula for that. So. But so I understood it. Like obviously, I thought it worked out great for our conference. But I understood why other coaches were upset. But I also understand, like, hey, listen, we're in a different time. We're just trying to get through to the championships. We're going to have a championship. It looks like. I'm just thankful that we're there, and I think the NCAA committee did everything it could to make it as fair as possible. And you know how it is. No matter what you do, every year with allocations, someone's upset, right? I mean, it's just the way it always is. It always will be. And it should be that way. Coaches are competitive, and it did work out for us this year. There's no question. But I don't think things don't always work out for our conference, but they did this year. So I said we're going to take it this year. But next year, hopefully we're back to a normal, and we won't even talk about this anymore.
Yeah. Given the extra week between conference and NCAAs this year, how differently will you structure practice?
We'll probably keep it really similar to what we did before the EIWAs. We'll kind of have some more days to get in and just kind of work on technique, kind of a play day, a lot of play wrestling or sparring, and then we'll string together a couple. We read the team. That's really what we try to do at the end of the year. Some guys we might say, hey, take off today, but you mix in some hard short goes, mix up some medium goes. Really, it's to feel your guys. If someone's coming back that was banged up, you change it for them, obviously. But we'll throw in some conditioning. But everything will be about going pretty intense and hard with a lot of breaks. Just so you're ready. We don't want to break the guys down. We just want to keep them. We want to keep them close to the fire at this point.
Given that given there's been no fans this season, I don't know how that has affected or not affected you guys at all. You talked about it a little bit before, ACCs. You didn't really realize it till the finals. Is that something to talk about, especially when you get into NCAAs and semis and finals? And I mean,
I'm sure it'll make a difference. Yeah, there's a feeling at the NCAA, without a doubt. Like I said, it'll be really interesting in NCAAs because I guess it would be how many fans? 25%.
Maybe I'm not.
I don't know if I've heard like rumors of that, but I don't know if the NCAA has made an official statement and has started selling tickets. Do you know?
Well, I don't know. I just heard from friends of mine like, oh yeah, we got a box. Like, so someone's going. I just don't know who. And are they just letting people in boxes, or are they letting fans in the stands? I have no idea. But I'm hearing rumors, but I don't know anything for sure. I just know I did hear that some people already are going, but I don't know how that's happening.
And is that anything that's worth or needs to be discussed with the team?
No, I think the fact that we just wrestled our conference room with no fans, I think they're going to be okay with it. I think, once you're in competition mode, you like some guys just feed off the crowd, but at the same time, you just got to go wrestle, right? And it will, like I said, I'm guessing there's going to be some fans, of which a few thousand, I don't know. It won't be 20,000 like you used to, but you'll have something, right? It's just a matter of getting your mindset right. And we're, talking about a big empty arena, but that's okay, right? It's kind of like for a lot of these guys, that's what they did in high school, right? You wrestle in front of empty places.
Yeah, absolutely.
So how will you, when you think back on this year and the team and like how they've kind of come together, are there things that you'll remember in particular about this group, at least through this part of the NCAAs?
I just think anytime you go through adversity, I mean, these guys will be telling their kids and grandkids about, the COVID-19, right?
Yeah.
I do think when you get to the other side of it, it makes you a little bit tougher, a little bit better. But so it's the decisions you're making while you're in it that make you tough, right? And then when you finally get to the other side, right now it's just something they're doing every day, and they've really kind of dialed in. And hey, this is what we are right now. This is what we have to do if we want to have any type of success. This is what we have to do. Because if this is the worst thing that happens to us in life, we're all right, right?
Yeah.
Like there's people that have lost their lives in COVID, right? We're fortunate. We've had some people got a little sick and they're okay. So you got to put things in perspective.
That's a famous line. I don't think she made it up. My mom used to always say that to me. If this is the worst thing that ever happened to you, little Mark,
Yep.
you'll be fine. So great advice.
Fine, yeah.
You're in good company. All right. I think I asked you this last time because you're so mild-mannered. And I said, do you ever get mad? And yeah, now and again. But now the question is, when's the last time you got steaming mad? And I'm thinking towards the wrestling, not like family or outside.
Yeah, no. I think it happened about 4 weeks ago. We competed one weekend. It wasn't even about being tired and not prepared. It was just how we competed, and I thought we just competed with we're a little timid, and we're not called to be timid, right? And that's one thing that bothers me. If I know we're not wrestling to our potential, I understand guys that weren't trained, but we had one of those moments as a team. We just we kind of hit rock bottom. It's like, hey, we're in this together. We got to do this or don't do this. You got to be, if you're going to step on that mat, you're competing to do the best you can, and you're trying to put points on the board. You're not trying to survive a match. And we talked about that. We talked about, hey, you can't go through life based on feelings, right? Like you're not going to feel like going to class. Yeah. You're not going to feel like going run hill sprints. You're not going to feel like doing bike sprints. But if you base your life on feelings, you'll have no success no matter what you do. So. Yeah, I probably lost it on him pretty good. Probably one of the worst ones I had in a few years. But it was one of those things that I just can't accept. I can't accept anything less than not being the best, but doing your best. And that was kind of one of those moments I had. But
when you say lost it, like you're so calm speaking to us right now. Was like your face red and spit flying out of your mouth, and is it like one of those, or you just like giving a stern?
Yeah. I don't know. It's all blur.
I'm sure.
I don't plan those things. They just kind of happen. So, and I'm sure I didn't say some choice words, but it was one of those moments where you just kind of, I think sometimes you got to be authentic with your guys. You can't be like, I got to yell at them. It was just, I just got so angry that I just, I let them know how I'm feeling, because I believe in these guys. I think they're really, really good. And when I saw they weren't giving themselves a chance, that bothers me because that'll carry with you the rest of your life. I believe when you climb the top of a podium, if it's a national championship, then you can do that in anything, right? It's the same principles. Become an All-American, you can do that in anything. I just think it's the same mountains. Different mountains, but the same principles. And I just don't want to ever see your guys leave Lehigh and not be prepared. Because like I said, wrestling matches, people are going to stop clapping for you in 5 years, right? That's going to leave. That's going to be gone. But you got to be able to doing this thing because you're trying to be better. And if you're going to have a successful marriage, you're going to have a successful job, successful with your friends. All that's important. You got to go through a little bit of things that you don't want to do and not feel like doing, right?
Yeah. He's human.
Yeah. Well, your composure is such a hallmark.
I'm very human, trust me.
Your composure is such a hallmark of your coaching in the Lehigh program. But it reminds me of a conversation we had with Coach Ayers recently about Greg Strobel and the legacy that he left at Lehigh. What's this year been like around the program with his legacy and losing Coach Strobel?
It was very strange. It's hard. I still can't believe it sometimes because he had so much energy. There's a guy that was as positive as you could be. He was just, when we could get our tails whooped, and he'd be like, nope, that wasn't so bad. We did, I'm just like, what? So but, he just was that guy that embraced life. He loved life. He definitely missed because, you see him all the time when we're here. He still worked at Lehigh. So it was just a strange a year with not seeing him, or just not seeing our fans, but not seeing him because he was at every match, and he'd pop in the office and we'd see him, and or he'd be working out up in our facility. You just didn't see that this year. So it was definitely very odd.
Sure. Okay. I want to play a little game and we switch it up. Usually I ask about you, right? It's called wins and whoopins, and I'm looking for a win that sticks out and a whoopin that sticks out, but I kind of want to switch it into the team. Is there whether it's a duel or a tournament, and this is your entirety of your coaching career, it can be Lehigh, Maryland, wherever. But can you think of one win and I'm thinking as the team, right? As a team title or a dual meet or whatever. But a time when you guys had a great finish that you felt really proud of, maybe did way better than you should have, and then like the opposite where the team just fell apart and maybe they were supposed to win and they did terrible and maybe you got really mad. I don't know. Maybe not, but
Yeah, probably the win that sticks out the most. I think my first head coaching job was at Maryland when we won the ACC championship. I think we had to go something like we had to go 5 or 6 in the finals, and the one match we lost was to Darian Caldwell. Right, so. But we had a guy that had a win and ride out. We had another guy that won a 1-point match. We had one guy that was unseeded that won. So it was just that we came to the final. That was one of those things. It was just like the team knew what needed to happen going in, and it was pretty neat to see because we knew where we were. We were last. My first 2 years at Maryland, we were last in the conference. So that was probably as a coach, you just see a little bit of a turnaround, right, where guys are starting to compete at a better level and they start believing what they're doing. It was pretty cool to see that, and just knowing with the assistant coaches that we had, and obviously Brad was there and Todd Beckerman, but it was just kind of one of those like, wow, this actually happened, right? So that was probably the one time. Probably bad performance if you're talking about postseason. I don't know if it was my second or third year here. I think we hosted the EIWAs. I don't know what we took, but it was not close to first or second. I know that, but I just remember we just wrestled, and I have no idea why. I almost felt we were too relaxed coming in. And I'm looking back. I didn't notice at the time, obviously, but I remember we were home. We were in a locker room that had a TV, and I remember the guys. The first day we were just awful, and what I realized is, because I wasn't in the locker room all day, but guys were watching TV all the time. They were coming back from sessions and just watching whatever was brain numbing. So the second day, I was like, that TV's off. Like, because I do think sometimes there's like your brain activity gets stuck in a mode of just watching videos, right? And it kind of puts you in a non-competitive. I think sometimes it'd be really good, maybe after it's over, where you can relax. But I think during's not a good time, and I don't know if that was the reason. I mean, it was just one of the times I thought we had a better team, and we just laid an egg. That was probably a hard one to watch because it was at home. We were hosting the conference, and we just didn't have a good performance.
Did you kindly tell them that no more TV, or did you flip that switch?
I mean, no more TV the next day, and after that we moved on. You had to get ready for NCAAs.
Yeah.
You can't. You have to have a short memory in wrestling. The wrestlers have to have the same. Like, listen, if I get upset with the team, it's done. I say my piece, and we move on. Right? It's done. Yeah. Like, it's time that I can't harp on a loss. It's just because, again, the whole season's about practice, right? But if you see a weakness or you see something that you can't accept, you just got to call it out and move on from it. So.
How did that team perform at NCAAs compared to EIWAs?
I don't remember. It wasn't worse than EIWAs though, but
couldn't have been, right?
Yeah. I can't even remember what year it was. I guess it had to be like year 3-ish or 4. I don't remember, but I'm sure I could look it up. But I don't want to go back there again. So.
Yeah.
You qualified all 10, right? This year?
Yeah, that's great.
Have you done that before? And if so, how many times? Do you remember?
One time we did it. I don't remember, 2 or 3 years ago. I just don't remember. But it was, we had 10, and it was a great tournament. This year it was obviously a little different, but one of the special moments, we had a 5th-year senior, that's been hurt all year. He's been kind of a spot starter for us, but until we had an injury before, he won the wrestle off. He goes out there and qualifies for the NCAA tournament, which I thought was really cool. So he was like our 10th guy to go, and that was pretty neat to see. And another guy to qualify was down by a point, and he gets a takedown and to the back at the pin, right? And that was his ticket. And so that was pretty exciting. It was just like we were getting the bonus points. We were finding ways to do things late in matches, because I think our 84-pounder had to come back in both his matches, to win, and then our 57-pounder had to come back and win. So that's what you want to do. We want those in big moments. You got to be big, right? You got to do special things in big moments, and that's what you train for. And when that happens for somebody, you're just really happy for them. So it was pretty cool to see that.
Sometimes it seems like all the cards fall the wrong way, maybe in that year with the TV and whatnot. And then sometimes it seems like the opposite, and you win the close matches and you get the takedowns late.
And honest, Mark, there's no rhyme or reason. Sometimes they're prepared, and it's just a mindset that happens. Momentum's a funny thing, and it's one of those things. All momentum is adds attitude, right? It's nothing else. I mean, you watch a football game, and all of a sudden one team starts, we run up that score in the fourth quarter out of nowhere on a comeback. What changed? I mean, the field's the same size, right? The rules haven't changed, the same players. It's just attitude. That's all momentum is. So it's just one of those funny things that you have to be the momentum guy that creates momentum. You got the guy that stops it. Like you're the guy that, last year at the conference, like we're at 125, we're winning the match. We got caught in a spladle and pin, which is a surprise, right? Like, oh, that was one we penciled in. And then Nick Farrer goes out and gets a pin at 133 to a kid that beat him in a dual meet 3 weeks before, right? Now he changed momentum right there in the semifinals, and it kind of set the tempo for the rest of the day. And that's the kind of stuff that has to happen at these tournaments, because everybody can be a hero, right? You just don't know when that moment's going to happen for you. And you could be the guy it's the catalyst for change in a dual meet or in a tournament. And you need those every big tournament. And we had a couple of those this weekend. We had some last year. Hopefully we have some at NCAs. Because, like I said, you get on a roll. You see it every year at Nationals. Teams get on a roll, right? And all of a sudden they win like 6 in a row. It's like, whoa, that's a big round for them.
Attitude. Last thing, I don't know if you know the answer or if you care to speak on it, because we got more wrestling left this year, but Jordan Wood, 4th EIWA title. Could he come back? Obviously, this year doesn't count eligibility-wise. Mightn't he come back for a 5th?
Yes, he plans on coming back. So, it was one of those things. We were putting him in an Olympic red shirt, and because we didn't think we were going to have a season. We were 50-50, and then as we got closer, we're like, then we had to make it happen. Like it wasn't just like, oh, just come back to school. Like we had to, how do you make the money work? I mean, it was a lot of challenges that we had to work through, and he was willing to sacrifice some, and which is really, that's just Jordan who he is. But when he came back, you just saw the whole room change. He's such a leader. His personality is just. He just said, if you don't like Jordan Wood, you don't like anybody, right? You have a problem with people, because he is probably one of the most genuine, kind people there are out there.
Couldn't agree more. Yeah. Coach, we're basically down, I think, overtime, but that's all right. But I'll let you have the final word. Anything you may want to leave us with before we let you get on with your day?
No, I just think you guys are doing a great job. Love to see you come visit us sometime, and hopefully I'll see you guys after COVID. Yeah, it'd be awesome. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, appreciate it, Pat. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Mark.
Best of luck in St. Louis.
Thanks, Coach.
Have a great day.
Thank you. Yep. Take care.
Yep.
Bye-bye.
All right, man. Pat Santoro, one of the classiest, one of the, just most well-respected coaches in the game, and 4th straight EIWA title. Coach of the Year. We didn't even get to bring that up and embarrass him, or EIWA Coach of the Year, but it's just done a fantastic job out there at Lehigh.
Yeah, because it's so consistent. He's like one of those guys you listen to him talking, and you're like, everything's going to be okay. Pat Santoro's on the case, It just kind of feels like that.
Absolutely. A lot of fun talking with Pat, and congrats to him. All 10 Lehigh wrestlers qualified for the NCAA championships in St. Louis in 3 weekends from now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And our producer Tyler let us know during the conversation, I missed it until now, 2018, that was the last time they qualified all 10.
Oh, so
and listen to this team. Darian Cruz, Scotty Parker, Luke Karam, Cortland Schuyler, Ian Brown, Gordon Wolf, Jordan Keller, Ryan Price, Chris Weiler, Jordan Wood. That's a good squad.
Pretty salty squad.
Yeah.
We'll leave it on that. So thanks for tuning in, folks. We will be back again tomorrow. See you then.